Let's talk about this main event, fellas. For the middleweight championship of the world, we had the champion Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis, with Dricus du Plessis winning by split decision 47-48, 48-47, 48-47. So that first round, Sean Strickland was his best round, in my opinion. He looked pretty decent, like always, throwing out that jab and pretty much controlling it from there on. I feel like DDP pretty much did what he wanted to in the fight. I mean, what he did wasn't super dominant, but he controlled a lot of it. He just looked like he was getting the better shots off. He looked the stronger fighter, and a lot of people had it 3-1 going into the last round, and I guess you could call round 2 and round 5 like a swing round, but I think I had it 3-1 going into the last round, and I think DDP edged him out in that last round. I think I had it 4-1, but you can make your case for 3-2, but I thought DDP comfortably won that fight. Admire, what were your thoughts?
I've watched this fight like 10 times now. So originally watching it, I thought that DDP won. Rewatching it again and again and again, I keep scoring it different every time that I watch this fight. Like DDP got a lot, some of the takedowns, but he didn't do anything with it. I don't think that he landed the better shots. I think Strickland landed the better shots. He was working the jab. He was winging that right. Now, DDP landed a lot more kicks, especially to like the legs and the body and stuff. And he even went up high a couple times, but they didn't really do any damage or really connect. I mean, it depends on which time I watched it, what answer I'm going to give. Like I said, watching the fight, I think DDP won. About every time I've watched it after, I think I scored it for Strickland. I don't know. They have to run this back. I would not be surprised if they make this rematch the main event of 300.
Before I get my thoughts on that, Steve.
Yeah, just looking at the fight, just first impressions, just me remember what my thoughts on it was. I honestly felt like Dricus won that just based off of I felt like he had the more impactful shot. I think Dricus was getting more respect at times. I feel like he was checking Strickland with high kicks. And not only that, I was just seeing overall MMA is basically explanation of that Curtis fight, except Dricus went out his way to actually win the fight just from stand-up, takedowns. And I think that's what decided the fight is takedowns. And outside's a means of taking the fight outside of where it was going, which was a stand-up fight. So in impression of the judges, I think that may have won over the rounds his takedowns, because I believe he had 6 takedowns to his 0, but definitely Dricus got outstruck as far as significant and total strikes. But other than that, you have 6 takedowns, and I have to calculate when those takedowns in which rounds, but that's a lot of takedowns in 0. So I think that's what did it.
Yeah, I mean, he did get 6 takedowns, but to put that in perspective, he only got 2 minutes of control out of that. So in round 1, he got 2 takedowns and controlled it for 28 seconds. Round 2, he got a takedown, controlled it for 22 seconds. Round 4, he got 3 takedowns and had 1:18 in control. So I think you're right when you say the judges kind of gave him points for those takedowns, but in the real world, nothing, like no damage was done during those takedowns. There was no real control. He wasn't landing a lot of shots on the ground. Like Sean is a great scrambler and gets back to his feet very well. And I think I've said it before. I think people should get awarded points for escaping the takedown. You know, it's traditionally been the person who gets a takedown, they get a point no matter what happens. But I think if you can get up from that without taking any damage, that should say something on the scorecards. I don't know.
I don't think that should happen. You get rewarded just for not getting beat up. I get it, but I don't think you should get rewarded for it. You should get points for it, but you shouldn't get. And then I think that's how they've been scoring it recently. If you don't control them on the ground, you shouldn't get points for that if it's like a pop-up takedown. Because a lot of those takedowns that DDP was getting, he didn't do anything with them. So, but I don't know. They just don't have like a clear scoring criteria when it comes to that. But going back to something that Amir mentioned earlier, Sean Strickland, he had I don't know what kind of mind control he has over his fan, but he had a lot of people fooled. Like, this is the same Sean Strickland that we get every fight outside of that outlier of the Israel Adesanya fight. I don't know. Maybe just because people like what he says on the mic. I mean, he's polarizing. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I've never gone out and be like, I want to see a Sean Strickland fight. We see the same thing, him working the jab. He's not a violent fighter. He talks a big game, but never does it. And like I said, I think that Israel Adesanya fight was just an outlier. So, excuse me. I definitely don't think we should see an immediate rematch. He didn't defend the belt once, so why should he get an immediate rematch? Maybe a rematch down the line, but I don't think we should be throwing out immediate rematches with title fights unless it's justified. Just because it's a close fight, a lot of people have close fights, but it's not like he was a dominant champion. So I don't see in what world they would run this back. You got to throw Israel Adesanya in there or find somebody different.
But Adesanya hasn't done anything to earn a title fight after getting beat.
He's the most recent dominant champion in that division.
Yeah, I get that, but I think the reason you have to run this back is not because it was a close fight, but because there's so many people divided on it. I mean, it to me, it was closer than a close fight. Like, it's a presser. Dana White said he scored it for Strickland. And if I could find the page, like, I had all the like media outlets scoring on it. Everybody was divided straight down the middle on who won that fight. Like, there's a lot of questions left with it. I mean, the only reason I don't want to see it ran back, you know, there's a little part of me that don't want to see it, is I don't think it'd be any different because them guys gave it all they had and like they didn't even rock each other. You know, we were talking about how DDP was talking shit to Strickland saying, you know, now we know why you have a 33% finish rate. DDP landed big shots on him too, and really it didn't phase him, didn't rock him. Couldn't do anything to him on the ground. So I think if you run it back, you're going to have another real close decision.
And I got to see the pay-per-view buy rate. I mean, you got writers and stuff that are saying it was a close fight. I'm sure you got fanboys that maybe want to see it, but is the majority of the public want to see this get ran back? Like, I'm not hyped. I wouldn't be hyped. I wasn't really hyped going into this. I like how they were. I didn't like it, but I thought it was intriguing how they were brawling in the crowd. But watching this pay-per-view, like going into it, I wasn't like extremely hyped for it. So is that even a moneymaker running this back? Like you said, it was really close where not a lot of questions got answered, but would there be even a lot of hype going into a second fight, headlining the pay-per-view? I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, as just my opinion, not really. I don't think, I mean, it would be a title fight. It would have to headline something if it's not, you know, on a big card like 300. But I think that's kind of part of the crowd fight. You know, this card didn't have a lot of hype going into it. They had to do something to spice it up a little bit. And as we saw, the card turned out to be pretty much an overall dud. Like there wasn't anything big for it. But I think there's a lot of hardcore fans that this is like a new rivalry as of right now because it was so close and there's so much back and forth and argument about who should have actually won. You know, I mean, Dana White, he's seen more fights than all of us because he's seen them all. And, you know, he scored it for Strickland.
But we know Dana he says he doesn't, but he has his biases. And I think he's friends with Sean Strickland. I've heard him say that for other fights too, where I scored it for the other fighter and like, damn, like that guy won it. I mean, he's supposed to be the president of the company. I feel like he shouldn't even comment on who he thinks won the fight because it's going to sway the public. That's just my take.
It doesn't matter if he sways the public though, because I mean, what really matters is the judges that, you know, score it. You know, I think Joe Rogan scored it for Strickland.
And what about Anik and Daniel Cormier? Rogan wasn't even on this card commentating.
Yeah, but he did a fight companion during the fights. Him and Crazy Eddie.
So I don't even, because I was at a bar watching it, which I rarely go to because I was in St. Louis on the weekend. But I couldn't hear commentary. I don't know what Anik and Cormier. Who was it? Was it Dominic Cruz with them?
They kept it pretty neutral as far as the commentating because it was. I mean, it was close. I mean, you said you scored it what 4-1.
Yeah, but I could see it being 3-2 as well. Like I said, the fifth and the second were the close ones to me.
Right, but like just the overall, Strickland, you know, outscored him 183 to 140. You know, so Strickland had the striking advantage. You know, the only thing he didn't have was the takedowns.
But it's a must score system. So it could have been one round where he just outstruck them a lot, and then it could have been like the first round he just outstruck them by that much, but he could have lost the other rounds by, you know, close margin. So
yeah,
but numbers could be deceiving
on a round by round basis. Sean Strickland outstruck him every round.
Now that's a different story, but you got to put the wrestling involved, and then like we've talked about in other shows, damage, and I have to go back and watch it. Like Steve saying earlier, he felt like Sean was getting some damaging shots, but I feel like DDP was the more aggressive fighter, and I'd have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, and the damage part though, I mean, Strickland, he had several cuts and he was bleeding. DDP was just swollen and bruised. I mean, it was damage on both sides there for sure.
Yeah. I don't think they run it back immediately. They will fight again. Definitely they will. And I wouldn't mind seeing them fight again, but I'm just not interested in immediate rematches. I'm not a fan of them unless it was a dominant champion, but to each its own.
A former UFC fighter that does some commentating on his own, he said the bad thing is Bo Nickel would beat both of them.
I don't think so. Like I like Bo Nickel, but we gotta see him fight somebody in the top 10 first. I'm sure he'll get there. I definitely see him being the champion. He's not the youngest guy either. Isn't he 28?
Yeah, he's upper 20 somewhere.
So, I mean, man, I think
28.
I think the person that controls a lot what happens is Izzy, but we don't know what he's gonna do in the near future. So I don't know. It's a lot to unpack and untangle. What was that at?
Well, what do you think? You know, let's hypothetical. What would happen in an Izzy DDP fight? How do you see that fight going?
I have no clue what type of Izzy we're gonna see, because what he put out against Sean Strickland, I don't know what kind of. I never seen him fight like that before. So if you were to bring that against DDP, he'll lose. So I have no clue. On first say, I say Izzy probably would get the decision, but I don't know. Like, is DDP going to wrestle again? Because if he does, then he'll probably get the win. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
As far as what's next for Plessis?
No, if DDP and Izzy were to fight, like what would happen?
It seems that Izzy proven that he has excellent scramble and takedown defense himself. If not up to par of Sean Strickland, and Izzy has fought more caliber fighters of back-to-back wrestlers than Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland did pretty well against DDP. I think Izzy can weather the storm with Duplessis wrestling from looking at what he did with Sean Strickland and be able to keep it at least on the feet. And Duplessis is going to have to use his wrestling as desperation, getting rest tactics, more of using it as keeping him down because he couldn't keep Sean Strickland down.
That's a good point.
Did you just get the breaking news?
What's that?
Kayla Harrison from PFL has signed with the UFC, and she's making her debut at UFC 300 against Holly Holm.
Oh, that's definitely some good breaking news, and you hear that first on Haymaker Combat Sports, but you probably won't hear that first because this episode probably won't come out till Wednesday or Thursday. So, but you still hear it here on Haymaker Combat Sports. That's big news. Is it going to be featherweight?
It didn't say what weight class it would be. She most recently fought. She fought a catchweight at 150.
This is what I've been clamoring for. They actually try to build a featherweight division. I don't know if they will because Kayla was saying that she doesn't like cutting weight. She fought at featherweight when she did that random fight in Bellator. I think she randomly fought in. No. It was what's the it's LFA? It's the Invicta. She randomly fought in Invicta because I remember because you can't elbow in PFL, and she's like, Invicta, I can elbow. They randomly lend them to Invicta. So I thought because Invicta is owned by the same people as UFC, so I thought it would have been naturally that she came over to UFC, but she still fought in PFL a while. But I'm a huge Kayla Harrison fan, and that's big news because I've been excited because she's like Ronda Rousey on steroids because she could actually strike something, and Ronda couldn't. And she's a gold medalist in judo, and Ronda was only a bronze medalist. So they're throwing her to Holly Holm. I guess they're saying that Holly's damaged goods because I think she is going to dominate Holly. It's not going to be close. But yeah, I'm hoping they bring back that featherweight belt now that it's vacant and build that division up. But they might fight at bantamweight. I don't know, but that is big news. And yeah, Kayla Harrison, that's dope. But going back to the main event, there was a lot of talk and chatter around Sean Strickland and his press conferences. Emma, I know you follow up on it. What was the controversy behind that? Were they asking him questions? I know he's been saying controversy stuff.
Yeah. There was a guy in the media that was asking him questions, kind of asking him questions that he's going to give a fucking crazy answer on. Sean Strickland's very outspoken about, different things. And he was just pretty honest about it, just talking shit like he normally does. And I think it was the same reporter that asked the question to ask Dana White at the post fight, about giving his fighters a leash to say whatever they want and blah, blah, blah. And Dana White's like, no, it's freedom of speech. Like, I don't give them a leash. Like, it's called freedom of speech. It was because the fights were up there in Canada. They're a bit more liberal up there and stuff like that. So they pretty much wanted Sean Strickland to give sound bites of saying some crazy shit, and he did.
I'm not gonna dig into the weeds too much about what he actually said with Sean Strickland. I just want to talk about Dana White's stance on it. I feel like he's kind of a hypocrite because they're trying to mold this league to be like a NBA or NFL. Of course, you have freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech is saying that the government can't control what you say, but you're a private company, so you kind of had to have like some guidelines on what people saying. Like if you're in the NBA or NFL, you're gonna get fined. You can't. So is Dana White just saying that the UFC is the Wild Wild West now? Because he's been on record where he suspended. What fighter was it? It was a heavyweight. It might have been not Pat Barry. It might have been Matt Mitrione. He said some stuff like in 2014 or 2015, like something about the LBGT community or something like that. And he got fined, and Dana White was like, "You can't be saying stuff like that." And what was it? It was a bantamweight. Somebody talking about a rape ban, and he got cut. So what happened? What happened? It was Miguel Torres, I want to say. What's freedom of speech in those instances?
Right. Yeah, I mean, everybody likes to throw that freedom of speech out there. It doesn't mean freedom of consequence, though. You can get in trouble for what you say. And I think that maybe it's because the sponsorships that the UFC has it's locked in and can't be canceled or something, because I would be worried about a big sponsor like, I'll just say Bud Light, because that would be, one of the top sponsors. What if they say, you're not punishing this guy for saying this crazy shit, we're cutting our cord? Then Dana White will probably do something about it. Like, until a sponsorship gets canceled over it, he'll let them do whatever. But it is hypocritical of him, and you can see kind of how Dana plays favorites. John Jones has gotten away with a lot of stuff, doing stuff, saying stuff. A lot of the top fighters have got away with a lot of shit, but just Dana White knows they bring in the views, so he doesn't do anything about it. He's almost a billionaire, and I'm not. So who am I to say how to run a company?
Steve?
Yeah, it's all depending. They got the stock numbers, and although I can agree, but it's both ways, because Dana can be buddy with these corporations, and while everybody's saying one thing, they're both seeing stocks go up just from them associating a Bud Light name to what Sean Strickland says about Bud Light or whatever. And it just creates money. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, corporations will turn a blind eye if it generates money, unless it's bringing harm to somebody.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. He has his favorites, and until, like you said, a big sponsor pulls out, I think he'll say they can say whatever they want, or they talk about like fighters having benefits or something, and he'll call them idiots and try to cut them as well. It's just if you say something that he doesn't like, then it's a problem. So.
Right. But it also could be, they do want to be, like you said, they want to be the NFL, the NBA. But the difference is these fighters are contractors. The players play for the league. So that could be the difference. Dana White in the UFC, when they bring in a sponsor, they might say, hey, these guys say wild shit. They're contracted. They're not employees of the UFC.
And what exactly? And like I said, what I feel about it, Dana has it set up to where the responsibility reflects on the brand, but on the fighter. And I think he gaslights it that way. What we can remember what Brock Lesnar did, he pulled that Coors out instead of Bud, I think, on that one night. And I think he fined him. And that just proves right there that UFC didn't get fined. That independent contractor got fined based on being on contract with that corporation, with the UFC. So they got it more set up. The fighter takes the hit more than the brand.
Yeah, that caveat them being independent contractors probably plays a key. But like I said earlier, we've seen instances where people have gotten in trouble, suspended, or fined, and I don't know.
If you're making the company money, you can say whatever you want. If you're not, if you're a mid-level guy, don't say what you want.
Yeah, that seems what it seems like to be. Yeah, just it's about your position and whether or not you're in favor with the higher ups. But yeah, but I don't think we got into this. I think you kind of projected on what may happen, but what do you think will happen as far as what who both of these guys fight next?
In my opinion, like I said, you have to run it back. If you don't run it back, probably, man, I don't know. I think a lot of people are tied up towards the top. Izzy, like you said, deserves the title shot if that's the way they go. Put him against DDP. Put Sean Strickland against the winner of, who's fighting Whitaker next? Costa?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do Strickland against the winner of Whitaker Costa?
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm still waiting to see Sean Strickland kill somebody in the cage. He's been talking about it, and I've been seeing the same stuff from him over and over again with him working jabs. But what do you think as far as both of these guys fighting next, Steve?
Yeah, I can see Izzy coming back and fighting Strickland.
He said, so it'd be you want to see him fight Strickland before he fought DDP?
It could be an option, or Plessis. But as far as Strickland, that Whitaker out of Costa would be a good fight, because I don't think we're ever going to see, unless he changes his style, we're not going to see Strickland in a good fight unless he gets somebody that has pressure or has a legitimate threat to take him down, and he's not winning that one. So Acosta would be a good fight for him. Like I said, if Izzy chooses to, you know what, I definitely want to get the rematch off of somebody that beat me. One of those I have to prove a point things. Izzy can go that way, or, take out this newcomer that's on the top of the hill now and get your revenge later, or see Strickland fade off. We'll just have to see.
Well, Izzy said he ain't coming back till 2027, so we have 3 more years allegedly. But they try to, I bet if they try to drop that big bag for 300, I'm sure he'll come out of his early sabbatical.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to remember Chimaev's back there too. I mean,
oh yeah, I think Chimaev probably beats everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, he keeps like he keeps tweeting everybody about wanting a title shot every time, and like, I don't know why they're not grasping onto him and pushing him towards the top faster. Like, is it because he's going to reign the division and just beat everybody? I don't know, but I don't think there's anybody that can beat him. If they wanted to get rid of Strickland, they could just put Chimaev up there against Strickland next.
I'd be all for that, actually, because like I said, I'm not a fan of him getting a media rematch. But you fight Chimaev, you beat him, then you get a title shot. Just win one fight. I'm for that. If you can win one fight at a high level like that, then you get a title shot. Because that's definitely a test to see if you deserve a title shot.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people can keep Strickland down. If anybody can, it's Chimaev. If he can get up from Chimaev, then, I mean, you're ready for another title shot.
Yeah, I feel like Chimaev has more proved himself in welterweight, but not in middleweight. I think that Gilbert Burns won him a lot of respect, but this ain't welterweight no more. It's middleweight. And I think definitely he has the skills to beat them, but to prove your worth, you have to you'll shoot up right to the top if you just take out Sean Strickland, which I think he has the skills to do. So that would be his proving ground for middleweight, which hasn't been done yet. Like sort of got respect with Gilbert Burns.
And I mean, when Chimaev, when he fought Usman, that was supposed to be a middleweight title eliminator. So,
really,
I mean, that's what it's labeled as.
I think that was because I think Usman was trying to get a hole opening for the championship title to reinvent itself because he beat Sean Strickland in the past at welterweight. So I think that was his, trying to ask Dana if he can get a championship shot.
He's trying to jump the line and get fast track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a calculated risk by him, but it didn't work out.
Yeah,
that would have been interesting seeing a rematch against Strickland. But yeah, I mean, they have options, but it's still kind of a mess what they got going on at middleweight. I mean, we don't know what Chimaev's doing. We don't know what Izzy's doing. So I don't know, but I got a feeling that we may see DDP turn around and defend it at 300. Thank you for checking out this Haymaker Combat Sports segment. This full episode can be found on the Haymaker Combat Sports YouTube page and in audio form on all major podcast platforms. Until next time.